Okay, so I hope you can all see the screen as well. Great. Thank you so much for joining in today for a glimpse into TDD by 5 Elements Learning. I hope you all are doing fine. So, in next 2 minutes, we will start with our glimpse into test-driven development. So, meanwhile, we wait for the time to tick to 6 p.m. IST. I have just created a poll for you guys to answer, just to understand that whether you are a developer or tester joining in this session. If you can, I hope you have received it. And if you can answer me, take the poll, please. Okay. Okay, thank you for that. So let us start with our session now. So the agenda for today is what is test-driven development, a brief history in time. We are then going to talk a brief about code kata, not getting too much into it, applying TDD with an example of C#, and then it will be open to questions and answers as much as possible. So the language or the technical stack which I have chosen for this presentation is C# as a language, and I would be using Fluent Assertions and XUnit as the unit testing library. So you must all be familiar with this test-driven development diagram, which is the red, green, and blue, which says that you first write a test which is supposed to fail. You then have to write the minimum possible set of code lines to make the test pass. And then you keep on iterating this loop. Within this iteration, you keep on refactoring the code which you have written to pass your test in such a manner that you apply good programming principles, you apply abstraction, you apply removal of duplication, and you keep on writing more and more tests and minimal set of code lines again to make your test pass, and then keep on refactoring it so that you produce good level of production code, and ensuring that you remove any duplication and apply abstraction and other concepts to write a good program. Now, TDD is an approach to developing a product. It is no longer only a developer-oriented concept, as the lines to who is a developer and who is the testers are indeed getting blurred in the context of agile teams. The temperament of TDD basically approaches work in the term of prediction, a prediction of an applied outcome which is going to fail. And then we are supposed to write a minimal set of code lines to make it work. Then we do the same for another requirement and we predict it to be failed, and then we write minimal set of code lines to make it work. This approach ensures that the all units in application have been tested for the optimum functionality. TD is not new. It's one of the software engineering practices which was introduced by Kent back in the late 1990s, early 2000s with the book Test Driven Development by Example. And it comes under the broad concept of extreme programming. Ken Beck himself said that he did not invent TDD but rediscovered it from old articles like The Humble Programmer and the NATO Engineering Conference report, which both described the process of testing the specification before writing the code or testing the requirement before writing the code. Uncle Bob, or Robert C. Martin, as popularly known as Uncle Bob, describes TDD with three rules. You're not allowed to write any production code unless it is to make a failing unit test pass. We are not allowed to write any more of a unit test than is sufficient to fail. And we are not allowed to write any more production code that is required or is sufficient to pass the one failing unit test. Now, the shift to TDD, whether it is for a developer or in a team for everyone, is pretty difficult because it's very difficult to, shift your perspective from development to writing unit test first, where you are supposed to write a code to fail a code which you have not written. By default, as a developer, your mindset will go into quickly writing down the algorithm and creating those classes and objects and functions to solve what is the requirement at hand. But that is not what TDD wants you to do. TDD wants you to first predict a failing test for the requirement at hand. So in the red phase, you write a code as if it is already exists to solve a requirement, and you are the user of that code. It helps us to design the code as it might be used by our end users or the clients. So we write a test to write production code. That is our rule one. Green is where we write only minimum possible lines to make the test pass. The rule is the less number of code lines we are going to write, the less bugs we are going to introduce. And we are not supposed to write code for tests which do not exist. Here in this situation, our urge would be to quickly go ahead and complete the problem at hand or the task at hand, implement the classes for the algorithms, the functions, but we do not have to generate any new code line then required the first test to pass. And blue is where we clean up the code, we remove any duplication, add abstraction, and we think like a programmer. And we are not supposed to move the requirement until it is completed. Now, why this all huge concern about having TDD as a practice built into your product development teams? It has been made popular by Martin Fowler, the test pyramid, which says that you should have a large number of unit tests, then your integration test, and then your acceptance test or the end-to-end test. Now, your unit tests are your fastest and your UI tests are your slowest. At the same time, the cost of building your unit tests are lowest and the cost of building your UI tests are fastest. UI tests are not only more robust, they are more fast compared to your UI tests, which are more flaky and they cost higher also. Also, it is very well known now that a bug which is caught at the level of your requirement itself is less cheaper than the same bug caught at the level of production. So how would you reduce that? How would you keep on thinking your specification and your requirements and keep on writing down tests first to make the dev code follow that? So that is what we are going to learn in this session or take a step into it. Now, what are the benefits of the TDD? You get better code coverage, you get a reduction in bug by a range of 40 to 80%. You have a good code flexibility and better maintenance, and what you are getting is a detailed project documentation, which overall helps us in reduction in time to project development, more communication or better communication within the teams, and then there are more such benefits which are listed, measured, scientifically observed across projects and organization. So what we are going to do now is we are going to take a small problem, the fizz buzz problem, and we are going to try solving it by applying the principles of TDD. Okay, so I will try attempt it and try to take an approach as if I'm trying to implement TDD to solve or create a solution to solve the fizz buzz problem, how I'm going to do about it. Okay. Before I get into that, any one of you has any questions which you would like to ask me before I move into that? If you want to talk, you can talk too. If you want to type, you can type the question in the Q&A panel. Okay. So looks like none of you has any questions. Let's move on to the trying to first understand what is the FISBA problem says and then listing down some of our requirements so that we can take each requirement, write a failing test first and then generate minimal number of code lines to make that test pass. So the FISBuzz problem is a problem which is generally used to teach kids the concept of division. And here, if we say any number which cannot be divided by 3 or 5 or both, we just say that number. So for example, if I say 1, you say 1. If I say 4, you say 4. If I say 8, you say 8. But if I say 3, you say fizz. If I say 9, you say fizz. If I say 27, you say fizz again. But if I say 5, you say buzz. If I say 10, you say buzz. If I say 15, you say fizz buzz. If I say 30, you say fizz buzz again. So this is basically a problem in which we teach division by returning or by saying fizz or buzz for number divisible by 3 and 5, fizz buzz for both. And if in case it's not divisible by either of them, we just return the number. So here are some of the requirements which we listed. For any number divisible by 3, we say fizz. For any number divisible by by 5, we say buzz. For any number divisible by both 3 and 5, we say fizz buzz. Let's add one more as we are talking. For any number said, echo the number again. Okay. So for any number which we mention, you echo the number again. For any number divisible by say 3, echo fizz. 5, echo buzz. And if it is divisible by both 3 and 5, echo fizz and buzz. So let us see how do we do it. So as stated, I'm using C# as a programming language and I have added two Nugget packages, XUnit and Fluent Assertions. So this is my structure. So I have a demo biz app. This is my dev part. This is my test part. This is my class test fizzbuzz. This is my class in here fizzbuzz. And here I have added a dependency of this project so that whatever changes I make here, I will start getting seen here. So the first is I write a method which should just simply return nothing just to check. Okay. So we write a method and So the name of my method is should execute. So I'll be following a naming convention. I will name my methods, whatever method name I'm picking or I'm thinking to pick up in the dev part, I would add should to it in the test part. So let me, so I'll just write a first test which will be empty. Okay. So this is the first test which is empty, no code lines. Now I'll add an empty method here in the dev code as well. So here is an empty method and here is an empty test for it, or the test was written first. And in the test explorer, I would start seeing whatever tests are there. If you click on it, so since no lines of code exist, it is not going to do anything. Now, let us try to solve our first requirement where, or write a test for the first requirement where if a number is passed in here, it should return number in the string format. Okay, so if I pass a number, I should be able to get the number in the string format. So how would that work? So I will first create an object of the fizzbuzz. Now I am going to call a method by creating the object of this, which does not exist. So my method is, let's say I am calling a method called as deliver or process. Okay, let's call the method as deliver, but that method doesn't exist. So I'm going to write test for a method deliver, which returns a string for the number passed. So let's do this. So let me write another method for it. Like, now I'm going to call object dot deliver num dot should be num dot toString. And where is this number coming from? It's being called in here. So this is what I would like to test. So in here, in my demo fuzzbits class, okay, I write my next method, which is, and this method is going to simply return number dot to string. And since it is returning a string, it has to be a string. Okay. So I have written my method in here to pass only the minimal set of lines to pass the code which I have written here. Okay. The test which I have written here, which is should deliver. Let me just quickly fix this part. So just fixing that. 1 second, please. Sorry about that. Some issue with that project. I will move on to the other one. I'll just comment the already existing code so that it doesn't cause any problem, and just rewrite what I have written here. Sorry about that. Okay, so let us start again. So here in the FizzBuzz test, okay, in the test project, we first write a method which is supposed to test whether the number which we are saying, are we able to return its string or not. So we will write that. Okay, so we should now be able to create an object of the FizzBuzz. And I'm going to call a method which right now doesn't exist. I'm adding an assertion. Okay, now the deliver method doesn't exist. Okay, it says that the FizzBuzz class does not contain any definition for the deliver method. So we now are going to add this method in the FizzBuzz class, and we have to ensure that the test which we are trying to write, this should get passed. So let's go to the FizzBuzz class and write enough code to make this test pass. So we write the deliver method which takes the number as argument, and it should return to us the number, or it should echo back to us the number in the string format. That's all we want. Now let's try to run our test and see whether that is fine or not. So we ran our test passed. We were able to get back the information or the number in the string format which we passed as integer. What is our next requirement? Our next requirement is that let's try it for some other number. Okay, so let's see, we would like to try it for 7. So if we change the data point to 7, does it work? So it passes again. Great. Now, what is our next requirement? For a number which is a divisible, which has to be divisible by 3, we should get fizz as an answer. So let's try this. Do we get fizz an answer or not? So I'm just going to make some changes to use fact instead of theory. So theory is where if you have more than one data point and you want to run your test for that. I'm just going to change it by adding my information in here directly. Now I'm going to try f object dot deliver. If I say 3, it should be fizz. Okay. So if I say 3, it should deliver to me fizz. If I write down this, does it work or it doesn't work is what we have to see. And this will change to 7. So both of them should pass. Let's see. So as we run this, we will find that our test got failed because we expected the deliver 3 to deliver us fizz, but it delivered us 3. So the output was 3, but we were expecting the fizz to be there. So we now are going to generate only the minimal number of code lines for this specification, the assumption to work. Okay. So let us go back to the fizz class, and in here we write an assumption. I mean, we write the code to take care of the assumption. If number mod 3 equal to 0, we would like to return the fizz. Now let's go and test our code. Run the unit tests again. So they pass. Great. Now let's write another assumption, which is, or let's try to write down the test for the next specification, which is if we say 5, it should return to us buzz. And now let's run this part. So it got failed again, and the reason for failure is we are expecting 5 to deliver buzz, but what it is delivering is the string 5. That is not what we want. So we go to our code and we take care of that part, which is if the number mod 5 returns to me 0, I would like it to return buzz. Okay. Now let's see if our test is working or not. Okay, cool. This works. So before we move on any further, do you guys have any questions about what we are looking at, or are you able to understand how we are proceeding in here? Okay. So please feel free to ask me any question in case you are faring, you are unable to understand anything we are doing. So what do we do now is we move on to the next part, which is if we write something or if we are calling something which is divisible by both 5 and 3, we should be able to get fizzbuzz as the answer, which again, right now, as you run this, will fail because this requirement is not handled in the code. Okay. So we will find that this 30, which is required to return to us fizzbuzz, but fizz is returned. Okay. Why fizz is returned? Were you expecting fizz or were you expecting 30 as a string? Why fizz was returned? So the reason fizz was returned was because it got divided by 30 and it returned fizz. So let's look back at our code. So here it first encountered mod 30 and it returned fizz, and that's it, because 30 mod 3 is indeed 0. So let's try to handle our code in here. So we say if number mod 3 is 0 and number mod 5 is also equal to 0. Okay. So we would like to handle this situation where the number mod 3 and the number mod 5 is equivalent to 0. And what would we like to return? Fizz buzz in here. And then we would like it to move on to the next set of questions or next set of assumptions. So let's run it and see if this works. Great. So this works too. Okay. So we are iteratively writing or generating code as we move on by writing the test for our requirement or specification first and then generating enough number of code lines to make the test pass. That is only the focus. Now it's a good time to refactor the code because I can see that I am doing nummod 3 and nummod 5 and I'm calling it more than once. Maybe I can write a method which says divide by 3 and divide by 5 and make it look better. So I have that method available. So I'm going to put this particular part in comment, okay, and show you the other method which exists. So here we have this method which calls divided by 3 and divided by 5. Then it returns whizbuzz if this is returning as true. Otherwise, divided by 3, divided by 5. And what is divided by 3 and divided by 5? These are sub methods or these are other set of methods which return us a Boolean value, true or false. So it basically returns us the output of number mod 3. Okay. So it is either going to return us true or it is going to return us false. Based on that, we are either going to return fizz buzz or the number itself based upon how these functions work. So since we have refactored the code, let's run our test to see if the test is passing or if it is failing, whether any refactoring we did is making the test pass or fail. So this is good, okay? So as a developer, I am getting a quick output to my code to find out that whatever changes, so I have made some significant changes. I have rearranged my code. I have added more methods. I have tried to remove duplication, trying to add abstraction. So as I'm generating more and more code, these tests are acting as my guiding light and giving me the confidence that whatever production code I'm generating, it is getting passed. Okay. So as a developer, that's a great feedback available to me at any given snapshot of code addition or modification, making me realize that whatever I just did it cause any failure or not? So do you see the advantages as a developer you get when you are applying TDD, and as a tester too, as you work with your devs in your agile architecture or team, you are able to also see this. Okay, so I hope you are able to appreciate the the immediate feedback it provides us and the benefit it has. Also at the same time, I am pretty confident that whatever I have so far written, my code coverage is taken care of because my requirements are tested, okay, at the unit test level. Now the next part of the code implementation which I would like to add is, as I add another requirement to the already existing set of requirements, is that if I say what should be my output, so the output should be, so I would now like to, instead of giving it individual numbers, give it a list of numbers. So if I'm saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 9, I should get it as 1, 2, fizz, 4, fizz again, 7, fizz again, buzz, 12, no, not 12. This is going to be fizz buzz again, and 31. Okay. So if this is my input, okay. So if this is my input, the output should be in this format. This would be one of the last requirements or specifications I would like to test. And have I written enough code to test this? Well, I don't know because I have not even written the test for it. So let us first write the test. For this, I'm going to write another test. So let's go to the test part, which is here. So I'm going to generate my test, which is, so let's call it as should echo, and let's make it as a theory because I would like to change my list again and again and see whether I am able to get the right answers or not. So the data which I took was this. So let's add it in the test. And I create an object of this class, and I am considering that I should have a method called as echo, okay, which should be able to take this information, okay, and so it is an integer data set with array it should be able to take, and it should return to me a string of numbers or a string of values which were echoed back, okay. So I would like to receive this output. Fair enough. Now echo doesn't exist, okay. So if you are going to generate echo method here, so this method is available. So this is the echo method which takes an array of integers as input and it creates an empty string. The first thing we do is we create an empty string and we add a delimiter comma because this is what the output is expected in. Okay, so there are commas here. Now we say we iterate through this array, and if our first iteration, for the first iteration we simply say that the string is, we call the deliver method and pass data I. So based upon which data was there at data I, whether it was a number divisible by 3, 5 or both or none of them, that type of output will get returned. Otherwise, we would like to concatenate else. So if you are in an iteration which is not the first iteration of this array, we would like you to concatenate it with the existing string and keep on calling deliver data. So this is the echo method which we are writing. So let's go to our test and see whether our methods got passed or is there any failure which we are getting. So one of the failure we got is semicolon is expected. Okay, so this was in the test itself. Now let's run. So as we ran it, our both the test got passed, and because of already prior existence of previous set of requirements, the new requirement which were getting added, you saw that I added this new requirement because I already had lot of existing code, refactored code for my previous requirement. It was not very difficult for us to write or generate that new set of code lines and at the same time ensure that my test is guiding it. Okay. So if you add any number or if you change this inline data, you change your output data here, it should work. So let's say I remove 3 from here and I add 19 here. So if there is anything wrong in my input or my expected output, my test can fail or it can pass if the code is working correctly. So at any given time, you can find out pretty quickly whether just in case you made a mistake in your test or at your actual code, or where did you make a mistake. So let's say if something is wrong in the actual code here, okay, your delimiter change to hash and then you generate your test, it would fail. So you would quickly realize by seeing the messages where and why your test failed. Okay. So it says you expect 1 comma 2 comma fizz, but it generated one hash with hash this and that. So I hope this was informative for you guys. You were able to visualize how TDD is done. You could make sense of it. So if you have any questions, any feedback, anything you would like to know more, please let me know. Okay, thank you, Priya, for your feedback. Do you have a question, Puneet? If you want to talk, you can. I am disabled. I mean, I have enabled you to talk. You
Hello.
can talk if you want to, or you can type in a message. Yes.
Okay, Pallavi. So I am Puneet, working as a QA, and we are following the TDD approach in our project. Okay. So what we are doing is just create
Okay.
a creating a scripts and providing. I mean, development and scripting both working in the same time, right? We are a developer is developing and we are just creating a script, and after that we hand over our scripts to the developer. Now my
Okay.
question: developers are get benefit of my scripts, but I am not getting that benefit as per improve my skills, because I am not aware with my code how many bugs they found, how much that my script is helpful for them.
And why is that? Don't you have the snapshot of like you see how your tests are passing or failing this kind of environment?
No, I am developer. I hand over these scripts to a developer. So after coding, they just rerun my code, my script, and they come to know that whether where that their code is correct or not. But I am not getting that benefit. But I mean, how many bugs my code have found in the code when
Uh,
developing?
okay. What see I you may be writing or generating these, unit test codes if this is what you are trying to tell me. But ideally,
Not unit test. I'm just preparing the normal test scripts
the normal test scripts for what? Which
for
interface?
requirement for the
Uh, okay, but which level? Is it at the unit test level? Is it at the UI level? Is it at the
no, the
integration?
function level, function
The UI level.
function level, yeah, UI level, right.
Okay, you are using what tool to do that?
Selenium with Java.
Right. So you are basically working at the upper end of the test pyramid. Okay. So
Right.
here you are working at this level. So in this situation, the code which you are writing and just giving it to your devs,
Mhm.
this will not give you the direct feedback, and I'm not sure how in your organization it is being used, because if just in case, let's say it was in, if you had built a reporting framework
Mhm.
around the type of code which you are writing, and those reports get generated after every UI test which you are executing, okay, or the test suite which is executing for the devs once they have finished a module, and then you are just testing it at the UI level. So you're not doing TDD. First of all, let me clarify that, okay? So you are just at the last level of the pyramid, which is the UI level. And what you
Mhm.
should ideally have, if you want to have that benefit, is that you should add some reporting tool to your set of files which you have generated, the set of
that
code.
that we are using like Jenkins, and through the CI we come to know that how many tasks are failing after the new code is merged or integrated.
So again, I would like to inform you that you have not automated the requirements, okay? And you are not following the approach of TDD in here, because first of all, you are not doing TDD. What you are doing is you are automating the UI flows using Selenium
Mhm.
with Java,
Mhm.
and you will not be able to in here fetch the information as to how many requirements have failed, because you have not automated that part of your product. So it has to be either an approach in the mindset where you start applying BDD and inside a TDD. So at the unit test levels, your unit tests are more than your integration, than your UI, actual UI. That's where you will get the most benefit.
Mhm. Okay.
Okay.
Thank
Thanks, Vineet. Anyone else has a question? So there are a lot of information available out there on TDD, on BDD, and as even though you may not be the one writing production code, but I am sure you are the one making the entire difference in the way in how production code is formed in the first place. So first learning something on your own and then advocating it, if you yourself see the benefit, as an approach we should all take. And there are a lot of informative people out there who practice and preach about the practices of BDD and TDD. If this topic interests you, I would request you all to start searching, seeking them, following them. A lot of information is available on Google. And with this, I will be sharing the recording of the session and an article which I wrote, which will have this code files and the step-by-step walkthrough of how we did it here. So hopefully it would be helpful for you guys. Thank you so much for attending the Glimpse session by 5 Elements Learning. Take care and have a good week ahead. Thank you.